So, Meghan Markle just got the boot from Netflix, and not in some quiet, behind-the-scenes kind of way. This was a full-blown executive-level breakup that left sparks flying in every direction. After months of tension, failed expectations, and more drama than a reality show reunion, the streaming giant decided enough was enough. Her $100 million deal gone. No extensions, no soft exits, no polite PR spin that could mask what really went down. It all came to a head when Netflix top brass Ted Sarandos and Greg Peters finally pulled the plug. These weren't just minor disagreements or creative differences. We're talking about executive-level chaos, arguments, outbursts, emergency meetings. Meghan was reportedly calling up Ted in a frenzy, begging to reverse the decision. But Netflix wasn't budging. They were done. And when Ted is done, there's no coming back. But here's the wild part. It wasn't even just about performance. Yes, with Love Meghan Season 1 flop, the ratings were a mess. And despite the PR spin, everyone at Netflix knew it. But Season 2 already filmed, reshoots still happening. Netflix had poured tens of millions more into trying to salvage it, probably hoping lightning would strike this time. So, no, they didn't cancel the show mid-production. That would have been a financial disaster. But Meghan, she was the part they cut loose. And you know what really set this off? Meghan's behavior behind the scenes. Sources say she wasn't just difficult. She was insufferable. Constant demands, endless changes, pointless arguments with producers. She reportedly made working on set a nightmare for everyone involved, to the point where even Ted Sarandos, who's weathered some of Netflix's biggest storms, tapped out. He told the board of directors, "We can't keep doing this." And just like that, the deal was dead. Now, here's where it gets even messier. After firing, Meghan didn't just disappear quietly into Montecito. Nope. She went into full panic mode. She wasn't ready to let go. She and her team immediately blamed Greg and Ted, accusing them of discrimination, unfair treatment, and basically throwing her under the bus. She demanded a meeting with Netflix's top executives, begging, crying, even offering to do a lower-budget project if it meant keeping some part of her deal alive. But Netflix wasn't having it. The execs had seen too much. After the chaos she caused with Season 2, they wanted nothing more to do with her. The board was united. No new deals, no spin-offs, no one-off documentaries. Meghan's chapter at Netflix was officially closed. And here's the kicker. Season 2 will still air later this year. Not because Netflix believes in the project, but because they've already sunk a small fortune into it. Might as well let it limp across the finish line. Meanwhile, Meghan is trying to rewrite the story. She's already made calls to friendly media outlets trying to spin it like there was no drama, that everything ended peacefully. But insiders say that's just another performance. The truth, she's furious, embarrassed, desperate to save face and find a new platform before this PR nightmare ruins future opportunities. And it might already be too late. Hollywood is watching. Other studios are reportedly backing away quietly, seeing the trail of drama she left behind. One exec even said, "We don't need another narcissistic PR disaster on our hands." Harsh maybe, but after what happened at Netflix, can you blame them? The day Meghan Markle stormed into Netflix HQ, it wasn't just a meeting, it was a meltdown. Security had to escort her through the back entrance to avoid press. And once inside, it was a full-blown scene. Multiple sources say she demanded to speak directly with Ted Sarandos and Greg Peters in a closed-door emergency session. She wasn't there to negotiate. She was there to unleash, crying, yelling, pacing. Meghan reportedly accused him of betrayal, sabotage, and even personal bias. It was the kind of tantrum that executives never forget. She claimed the cancellation was a targeted hit, not a business decision. That Netflix was turning its back on a mother, a voice, a leader. At one point, She even said she was the reason millions subscribed to Netflix in the first place. A bold claim, especially considering the viewership for With Love Meghan didn't even crack the top charts. Greg Peters tried to keep things professional, telling her the board's decision was unanimous and final, but Meghan refused to leave it at that. She wanted a backup project, something, anything. When that failed, she pivoted fast. Suddenly, she wasn't furious. She was strategic. She started proposing a new docu series, a one-off special, a global women's empowerment segment. She even pitched a travel show. It was clear she was grasping, trying every angle to keep her foot in the door. But the damage was done. The board had already decided no future partnerships, and worse, they were now talking openly about how toxic the collaboration had become behind the scenes. And then came the legal threat. Meghan's legal team allegedly contacted Netflix within 24 hours, claiming the termination might violate terms of her contract. They hinted at defamation, wrongful treatment, even floated the idea of a discrimination suit if things escalated further. But the move backfired. Executives at Netflix saw it as proof they had made the right call. Word started to spread internally. Meghan wasn't just difficult. She was dangerous to brand. To keep things from blowing up further, Netflix and Meghan's team both reached out to the media with carefully worded statements. They coordinated to make it seem like the split was amicable. Creative differences, timing conflicts, the usual corporate fluff. The inside sources knew better. There was no mutual respect left, only simmering resentment and the growing realization that the public might soon catch on to what really happened. Meanwhile, Meghan wasn't giving up. She'd already begun talks with NBC, eyeing a hosting role for a game show they were developing for 2026. She believed she could pivot into mainstream TV, maybe even rebuild her brand through lighthearted content. But studio insiders weren't sold. Her Netflix baggage was already following her. Executives whisper that hiring Meghan could bring unnecessary controversy, especially with the press ready to pick apart every move she made post-Netflix. And it wasn't just NBC she was chasing. There were rumors that she'd reached out to other streamers, too. Apple TV, Hulu, even Amazon. But so far, no one had bitten. One exec bluntly told a reporter, "She brings more drama than ratings." That one quote started circulating on social media like wildfire, reinforcing the exact image Meghan was trying to shake. With every door closing, she doubled down on her narrative. Selective leaks to tabloids, carefully posed photos, social media buzz about a possible comeback. But even those efforts fell hollow. Hollywood isn't just about who you know. It's about how much chaos you bring with you. And right now, Meghan Markle was looking like a walking risk no one wanted to take. The pressure was mounting fast, and Meghan could feel it from every angle. Her publicists were scrambling, trying to contain the backlash, while privately admitting that the optics were spiraling out of control. Headlines were starting to shift from creative split to meltdown at Netflix, and industry blogs were dissecting her behavior with surgical precision. Inside sources from the set began leaking details about her demands, how she insisted on last-minute script rewrites, how entire shooting days were delayed because she didn't like the lighting, and how crew members were quitting quietly just to avoid dealing with her again. To outsiders, it looked like the collapse of a brand. But to Meghan, it was war. She started calling in favors. People she had worked with in the past were now getting calls asking for help reviving her public image. A few responded with vague support, but most stayed silent. The entertainment industry is tight-knit, and word gets around quickly. Once Netflix stepped away, others began reevaluating their own connections to her. The deals that once seemed inevitable were now stalled in limbo. Sponsors paused. Collaborators hesitated. Even podcast platforms that once welcomed her with open arms were suddenly restructuring or moving in a different direction. Meanwhile, Meghan wasn't sitting idle. She greenlit a PR campaign designed to frame herself as a victim of corporate politics. Leaks to celebrity blogs painted her as a misunderstood visionary. Social media posts hinted at future truth-telling projects. And there was even talk of an upcoming interview, one that would supposedly expose what really happened inside Netflix. Her team was banking on public sympathy to shift the tide. But sympathy only works when there's still trust. And at this point, her credibility was wearing thin. Behind closed doors, the situation grew even more bizarre. Reports surfaced that Meghan had secretly approached independent production houses in Canada and the UK, offering to front her own funding for a new documentary series. She claimed she didn't need Netflix or any big studio, that she would build her empire from scratch again if she had to. But these studios weren't convinced. They'd heard the same whispers, and they weren't about to gamble on someone whose last project was riddled with chaos and over-budget shoots. And then came the NBC situation. Executives at NBC had originally shown mild interest in casting Meghan for their upcoming game show, but once her Netflix fallout became public knowledge, things shifted. They began holding internal discussions about potential reputational damage. Would viewers tune in to watch Meghan host light entertainment when her name was now tied to tantrums and boardroom blow-ups? It didn't look good. By the end of July, negotiations had cooled. Meghan was no longer the top pick, and maybe not even on the list at all. The final blow came when multiple Hollywood trades quietly published pieces analyzing her decline. They weren't cruel, but they were honest. One headline read, "From Princess to Pariah, Meghan Markle's rocky ride through Hollywood." Another piece described her as a cautionary tale of what happens when ego and industry collide. And the industry was listening. By August, Meghan's reshoots were with Love. Meghan were wrapping up. She was still showing up, still trying to keep things together on set, but everyone knew the energy had changed. This wasn't a comeback. It was a farewell. No third season, no follow-up deal, just a closing chapter in a story that had once promised something far bigger. For Netflix, the decision had been tough, but necessary. For Meghan, it marked the end of her last big foothold in Hollywood. And now with her name fading from the front pages and doors closing one by one, the only question left was what happens.